Welcome to Conversation with Haych, and we have an incredible guest with us today, hailing from the great city of Birmingham, which is also known as Brumtown Shutdown, for you guys if you didn't know that. She's a powerful woman of God, incredible prayer warrior and worship leader. You may have heard her single, Define Me, You Don't Define Me. You don't define me, don't define me. You know them vocals there? Hey, listen. But now she is the Principal Officer of Pentecostal, Charismatic and Multicultural Relations at Churches Together in England. She has been featured on TVN UK, Sky News, Premier Radio, BBC Sounds, BBC Radio, UCB Radio and more. She's a Wise Woman Award winner for Exceptional Young Woman of the Year. She's an incredible sister, daughter and friend. I introduce to you Miss Shermara Fletcher.
Hi. I'm well, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on. I told you already, you're highly requested. Highly requested from the people there.
Oh, I'm humbled.
So for those who don't know who you are, who is Shamara Fletcher?
Who is Shamara Fletcher? So I am a daughter, I'm a sister, a boy sister as well, all brothers. I love music, live music, funky house, garage, all of that. Yeah, listen, I was a master skanky, you know. Listen, love music. Love music, very creative.
Yeah.
So I like theatre and like writing stories and things like that. So yeah, it's a bit of me.
So what was it like having all brothers as siblings?
Do you know what?
And you're the oldest as well?
I'm the oldest sister. All my brothers are very protective, even though they're younger than me.
Yes.
And I loved being a boy sister because it was always jokes, always vibes. Saturday morning, WWE, WWF, I'm the referee, you know, boys have to play fight. So I'm just in the middle, in the midst of it, you know, like, oh, you won. So yeah, it was good. But I think it's allowed me to get on much more with boys.
Got ya.
Because like I went around a lot of girls. So when I'm around them, I'm a bit like, oh.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it was good.
So how has your, family inspired you on the journey you are currently on in life?
Oh, they've inspired me a lot. I think I do what I do because of them, or just like being influenced by them. So, in particular, my mum and dad. My dad, he's just a radical believer of people. Like he's always putting people first, looking after them, and I've just like grown around that. So I think that's inspired me, like with a lot of the work I do. Like, how are people doing? Are they well? Are they good? And then my mum, she's very visionary, like innovative. Public speaker, energy. So I think I kind of combine those two. And then my grandma, stylish woman, or every minute style. You know, from was 8 years old, she's like, stop wearing trainers. It's time to stop wearing trainers.
It's time for the heels.
But at 8 though. But we bless God. So yeah, my grandma as well, she's inspired me a lot as well. Yeah.
So what inspired you at such an early age in regards to justice? Because I watched you talk about this particular story about how you used to open doors for people and stuff like that. And then how when you were early, younger age, you didn't like how people were treated in certain instances. Was that what inspired you to get into justice, or was there other things like in life?
It's so interesting that you brought those two examples up, because I can't even explain. It's just been in me.
Yeah.
From like the playground, if I saw people being bullied, even if it's not my business, it's now my business.
It's your business is Shamara's business now.
I'm like, what are you doing? leave them alone. Or like, I was the kind of person I'd talk to lots of different groups of people. So like the popular people would be like, why are you talking to them? And I'm like, well, why am I talking to you?
Oh, you hit them with that. Okay.
Do you know, So I don't know, it's just been in me. So like if I see something wrong, or someone being treated wrong, or someone talking bad about someone, I just feel a way. I don't know, it's just, and I just have to say something, even if it gets me in trouble sometimes.
Do you remember any particular instances where it was like, you said something, it was like, oh, should I have said something in that moment?
Many. Yeah, many. And I've had to even work on that sometimes, because it's not every time you have to talk. You have to talk, but the timing.
Yeah, time is key.
Timing is key. timing is key because you can set fire and you ain't got enough water to put it out.
Oh,
You haven't got the facilities.
Good, Shamara, you talking the things.
You got the facilities.
You don't have the capacity.
You don't have the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have enough buckets. So you do have to know like when to speak. But yeah, like I remember at school, someone was being bullied and I went in and I was like, what are you doing? But there was a backstory. Like this person was doing a madness as well.
Oh, but you try jumping thinking in the midst. That's what happens when you're jumping in the middle.
Get your facts.
Rather than at the start, the beginning of the story. All right then.
So, yeah.
So growing up, as you've just said, I can imagine you've dealt with or seen a lot of injustices in your life. What advice would you give to younger Shamara in regards to all that you know now?
Patience. So what I said about the timing thing and communication, because sometimes you see something or something's not right and you might hold it in or feel a way. Like sometimes you have to know how to communicate clearly. And have a radical commitment to relationship. I say this all the time. It's about honouring relationships. So even if I have to have a conversation that's uncomfortable, ultimately it's about preserving that relationship as opposed to just letting it fester and die. So patience, communicate well. And you don't have to do everything yesterday.
Oh, explain that one.
So it's a timing thing again, like especially for people who have multiple gifts or do a lot of things. Sometimes you want to do everything at once. And you can't. And it's okay. And sometimes you're beating yourself up like, oh, I should have done that, or should I do this? Let me get involved in that. And sometimes it's like, no, stop. Do one thing very well and then move on to the next.
That's good.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
That's good, So where does music come into all of this? Because obviously we got justice, Shamara. But where does music, Shamara, come into, the early parts of your life, or is it something that comes later?
So yeah, as you said at the beginning, like I released a single in 2017.
Yes.
Oh my God. 2017, and it did well and it was blessing people. And then the Justice Shamara was raising up and like lots of doors was opening for that. And I was like, wait, but and use everywhere with it, So why did it go? Why did the music go on pause? I just felt that the justice side was calling, and I had to respond. And it felt quite painful at the time because I was enjoying the music. Things were starting to pop. I was like, okay, let's go back for round 2. Let's do something else. But I'd moved to London. Justice, it was like involved in homelessness, which was like a vocation, passion that I feel called to. So it wasn't just like a passion because I love it. Like
when it's on the side, it was something you felt you needed to put your all into.
Like I'd even say to a point of sacrifice. Like I wasn't even trying to do it like that, but that core, like I had to do it. So yeah, it was a bit of a tug of war. And I was like, oh no, have I let people down? Like people asking like, when's the next song coming out? What's happening to the album? What's happening? I just didn't have an answer for them.
Wow.
But yeah, like I said, when you've got many gifts, the way that I kind of reconciled it was, you see a cabinet, there's lots of like glasses, cups. Certain things come out at certain times. They don't vanish, but they come out at certain times. So I don't think music is dead for me. It's just not right now.
Like you can't drink off a plate. Like that.
Them ways there.
Them deep ones.
Them deep ones.
I didn't even need to drop deep. I wasn't even trying to go deep.
He's a preacher, I
wasn't trying to go deep.
He's a preacher.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you can't put the juice on the plate, and you can't put food. You can put food in the cup, but it's not the same.
It's not the season for the cup.
It's not the season for the cup.
It's not the season for the cup.
It's the season for the plate.
It's the season for the plate.
Listen, Shamara, we're getting deep on them. Cool, have a second for them. Cool, have a second ourselves. Cool, we might get too deep for them. So I'm guessing when you was growing up, the music and the justice side was kind of like not competing against each other, but because you was doing the worship leading, you was doing all of that, and then was it kind of a battle up until like after 2017, like from an early age of that music justice thing? Was it really just do what you enjoy for now? Define Me comes out, and then it was the justice thing that came up. Was that what it was?
Literally. Okay. So like justice was always bubbling, but it wasn't.
It wasn't the forefront.
Yeah, it weren't the forefront. So like worship leading, because remember like for Colgop convention, we're doing songs.
Encounter everything.
All of that stuff, and then it was just all like, okay, boop, and I was like, oh. He just stops like that. And it was that tug of war again. But I did, if I'm honest, it was time to stop at that season. Because as you said, you can't drink off a plate. And that justicide was raising up. And I had a lot of fear as well, you know.
Fear about what?
When I released Define Me, it like blew. I didn't expect it to do what it did.
Blue.
And then all of a sudden, I just became shooketh. I know, it's weird. It's weird. So I had this tug of war with the justice thing. And then it's like a fear came over me, like...
In terms of the music thing?
In terms of the music thing, like, will it do as well as Define Me? Or like...
I get you.
Should I put something else out? Like, am I being true? Like, just all this stuff. And then it could be paralyzing at times.
Do you feel like you'll ever go back to the music thing? Or is it too soon to say?
I think I will.
Okay.
I think I will, but it will be different.
Okay, yeah.
And I think it will reflect where I mean, because I'm a different person now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you grow. So yeah, I think it'll be a kind of like neo-soul-y vibe, live band, that kind of vibe. And the worship leading.
Is it calling you?
It calls him, but it's that thing again, like...
The fear.
Can I go back into that space?
Of course you can. What, only you're limiting yourself.
It's true.
If that space is open and available.
It's true.
All right, then give you something to think about here, you know. We don't just go for conversation, you know. It's too deep, you know. We talked about the plates and the cups. Now you got something to think about when you go home.
I need to journal.
When you took the step to move out of Birmingham to London, why did you do it? And what did you learn about yourself most during that time?
Why did I do it? Just practically, the job was in London. Okay. So I did an internship, half of the week working in Parliament, half of the week working within the Church of England. And it was based in East London. So I just moved because it was the thing to do. When I got there, I was just like, first couple of months, like, yeah, this is lit London. Yeah. And then I was like, oh no, what have I done? It's like my friends and family. It's just me one here. Like, I don't know anyone. And it kind of just sunk in like, oh, I'm in a new city. Because if anyone who's moved to London or lives in London and you're not from there originally, will know it can be a very isolating city if you don't know people. So what did I learn about myself? Like, you have to be intentional in relationship building. You can't just expect it to land in your lap. And also church as well, because obviously went to Colgop. Pentecostal church, and then I was in an Anglo-Catholic Church of England church.
Oh wow.
Not only that, I was living in a monastic community, so like you live in community with other Christians. It's all day, everyday church. Wow. And I'm already churchy, but then I went church.
You went into the midst.
The inner room, the inner court. Shandalabo. Do you know what I mean? So but then I was trying to run out of it. I'm like, this is too intense. It's too much. But yeah, it formed me. I learned a lot about myself. And I learned life balance is important as well. I love church, but you need balance.
So where do you think you are now in terms of that balance?
Much better.
Okay.
Maybe too much the other way now. In the sense of, I took a sabbatical. I took a break. I just needed time to reflect, and I was like, okay, God, what now? Because I'd left that, went into this kind of new role, new season. I was just like, okay, God, what now? I don't want to be a busy Christian. I don't want to be, just busy and no relationship. A mentor of mine, he said sometimes like if the devil can't stop you doing God's work, he gets you to do too much of it. So I had to just fix that balance.
So, you had to fix that balance, which I completely understand. But what does a principal officer for Pentecostal, Charismatic, Multicultural Relations do? Because that's a long title in itself.
It is.
And then what have you found most rewarding in what you do?
In terms of my job role, being a principal officer for Pentecostal, Charismatic and Multicultural Relations, so basically work for churches together in England, and we are the national instrument for ecumenical relations. So basically we bring all churches together. So the Baptist, Anglican, Orthodox, Pentecostal. And then I have responsibility for the Pentecostal and Charismatic side of that. So it's not based on race, it's based on our tradition and our theology. So we've got an amazing mixture of races, different traditions within that. We've got people from the Windrush, like what your granddad would have pioneered. You've got people that were indigenous to England, so like Assemblies of God, Elim. You've got your more new African churches like RCCG, and then your new independent churches. So we come together with the national denominational leaders, and we really like vision and look at what is God saying for this space going forward, looking 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead. And what's most rewarding about it now is I'm the youngest appointed person to ever do that. I got appointed at 27. So I think I want to, bring my generation through into that, particularly those from the Pentecostal and Charismatic space, to like meet our Anglican peers, our Baptist peers, our Methodist peers, our Greek Orthodox peers, and just like talk and have meals and get to know each other. So that excites me the most.
What do you, or where do you see yourself, say 12 months from now, in regards to that role?
12 months from now, I think, definitely bridging those gaps, making those relationships. I'd love some people from our space to have deeper relationships with other young millennial Christians from, as I said, the Anglican Church, Methodist Church. So I'd like to see that definitely in the next 12 months.
What have you learned in the different spaces that you've in? Because you've come from a Pentecostal background. You then went to Church of England, kind of Anglican background in terms of when you came to London. What have you learned that was different to what you'd grown up in?
Oh, so much.
Really? So
much. Like, I love and I'm thankful for my upbringing within the Pentecostal church, and that formed me up until, like 21. And then going to the Anglo-Catholic Church, it was an amazing experience because I had to find God beyond the music. I had to find God beyond the praise breaks. I had to find God beyond prayer meetings. It was just different. And all those things were great. I'm not saying one is better than the other. But I think in the Anglican Church, I became more human.
Okay.
So oftentimes, the way that I would interpret Jesus was as the divine, which he is, right? He's God in flesh. But Jesus was also a human. And I think in the Anglican Church, I found that. So after church, people were like, oh, let's go to the pub. I was like, the pub? The pub? But then I went to the pub. And then you meet people and you get to know who they are and why they're a Christian. And like, that deepening in relationship was just absolutely amazing. And just seeing that God is everywhere. And you can find him anywhere. And I think I became less intense. So before I was very like, yes. Praise break. They used to call me carpet ministry because every minute I was on the carpet, I was there at the foot of the throne. But I think, I just became less intense, less fear-based worship, and it was just more at ease. So I think that's what I learned going in those different spaces. God is different.
That's good. That's really good, because you're someone who will experience that and can then articulate that experience to other people that are just coming from one type of background, if that makes sense. In all that you do, because you do a lot, how do you manage your time, especially in a city like London, without getting burnt out?
That was a difficult one, and it was a journey, because at first it was burnout, because you're just doing X, Y, and Z, and it's exciting, right? Like, you're doing things that you feel called to, you're passionate. And then after a while, I think my mum actually spoke to me. She probably discerned, like, I was doing a lot. And she was like, Shamara, this is very good, but take your time. You know, take your time. It's okay. Like, you don't have to do everything. Yesterday, as I was saying before. And learning to say no is a very good one, because then you say yes to the things that you're called to do and what you need to do. And the things that I can't do, I can send to someone else who is called to do that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Time with friends, time with family, live music events, the jazz cafe. Am I allowed to say that? Okay.
Say what you want. What do you think this is? We think we're censored? You think we're censored?
You have to check, you know.
No, wait, censored. Talk about the jazz cafe and Coco, all the things that you enjoy to do. You get me?
Like the jazz cafe, live music.
Like the P, everyone likes. Yeah, talk. Who likes it? Jazz cafe. We ain't censored like that.
Okay, that's cool. That's calm.
Say what you enjoy, man. This is real life.
That's it. It's enjoying your life and enjoying the things that bring you passion and joy. So, and that less intense thing I was talking about before, like God doesn't love me any less because I do less things.
Yes, true.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's not this performance-based or merit-based thing with God. And I learned that coming to London and that journey of balance.
Has there ever been a time when you've kind of like questioned your relationship with God, or has something happened that's forced you to question your relationship with God, especially recently? And how did you kind of cope with that, or how did you get back to aligned with that, if you are back aligned with that?
Oh yeah, all the time. And that's why it's a relationship, because relationships is about being real, having honest conversations. It's not always in the mountain, sometimes it's in the valley. Studying theology, I was like, at one point I was like, Jesus, am I a Christian anymore? What's going on? And I kind of reconciled that with, no, this is worshipping God with your mind. Because some of the things that you thought was God, God was revealing to me, actually that's tradition. Or actually that's a perception of me, or I couldn't reveal that bit of me because you weren't ready. Or it would have shattered you too quickly. So now I ask God bold things, like our relationship. I think it's more real. I'm not scared to ask those questions. And if things aren't 100% with God, I'm just like, God, right now, you know, things aren't 100%. And I do believe, like in ministry, it's about being real. Because it's not always 100% with God. But one thing that is that God is consistent, even when I'm not. God is. And that keeps me going. Do you know what I mean? My grandma recently died. And I wouldn't say, it didn't rock my faith with God. But I was like, I feel very different now. Like something has shifted and changed in life. So just walk me through that, because it's different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So yeah.
We've seen a lot of things happen, like in life. People have been affected by death. People have been affected by loss of job, loss of whatever might have happened. We've seen things that impact us on a major scale that have kind of sat with us, not just individually, but especially in like our communities and stuff like that. How do we as people go about changing the narrative in a lot of spaces, dealing with grief, dealing with all these kind of things, as well as being being black people, especially in the UK? How do we go about changing those kind of our circumstances, what we feel, what we're doing, with all the knowledge that you have?
It's interesting you spoke about narrative, because that is it's the key. We have to firstly know our narrative and own it. So when you go into the public space and, you know, maybe different media outlets or different communities are talking badly about the black community, you can say, actually, no, this is the facts. But if you don't know that, then you just believe anything. You know, Marcus Garvey is he's very strict about that. Know your narrative, know your history, know who you are. I think in terms of our community, economic advancement is the key. It's important. Those who are entrepreneurs, those who can, you know, build business and build that economic capacity. It's going to be very important for this season, particularly, you know, coming out of COVID. So I'd say, knowing your narrative, knowing your history, building economic capacity, and coming together as a community. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you see other communities and how they operate in society, you see a unity. Of course, within that, there'll be conflict and turmoil, like it's human nature. But coming together. So, for instance, if I'm doing something and I can see, oh, it could benefit you or it could benefit you, come together. Don't be competing or, you know, splitting the resources so that it's weak on one side. If we all came together, it'd be strong. So I think coming together as a community, economic resilience, knowing our history and changing the narrative.
In the next 12 months, what's one thing you'd like to see for yourself happen? And what's one thing you'd like to see for our community happen? Not on a long-term scale, but in the next 12 months.
In the next 12 months, personally, what would I like to see happen? Probably location-wise, know where I want to go. Because sometimes I'm like, is Birmingham calling me back? Or am I staying in London? So I think probably having some clarity around that for myself. As a community, I would love to see like our younger leaders rise up, like our Gen Zs, you know, millennials. We're still young, but those after us, like seeing that we youngish. But yeah, seeing that younger generation come up with ideas and then being given space, I would love to see that for our community, because I think they've got ideas that will just rock our worlds of mind. Definitely, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
My last question to you today is, with where you're at in life right now, what advice would you give to yourself?
Celebrate more. Yeah, definitely celebrate more, because sometimes you do one thing, you move to the next, do one thing, move to the next. By the time you've done everything, you're like, oh, I just did all of that, or did I take time to reflect on it, or did I take time to say, oh, Shamara, like, take yourself out for a meal, or go and see some friends, like, celebrate. I think that's one thing I would definitely say, like, celebrate the wins, don't just move on to the next thing. Yeah.
That's good.
And cry when you need to as well.
Okay. Shamara, this has been good. It's been a great conversation.
It has.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
We could have talked about a lot more, but that's why we might have a part 2 and just letting you guys know. Shamara didn't even know I was going to say that, but she now knows there might be a part 2.
It's a healing space. Very nice.
Shamara, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Guys, it's been a conversation with Haych with the amazing, superb, supreme, incredible Shermara Fletcher, and we'll have more content coming for you very, very soon.